The door slammed behind me, and a cold emptiness filled the room. My heart raced, my hands shook, and I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. Henry, my husband for 12 years, had just thrown me out. No warning, no money, no apologies. Just words that cut deeper than any knife. You're on your own now. I stood in the doorway, staring at the pile of my belongings outside. My clothes, my books, my memories, all thrown into boxes like I was nothing. Neighbours whispered behind curtains. I felt humiliated, exposed. How could the man I loved, the man I trusted, treat me like this? I stumbled down the street, my suitcase heavy in my hand, my mind spun. 12 years of my life gone. My home, my comfort, even my dreams of security, they all vanished in a single moment. I tried to remember when it had gone wrong. Was it the quiet nights he spent in front of the TV, ignoring my calls, the arguments about money, or had it been slipping away slowly, like sand through my fingers, until this moment when he finally decided I wasn't worth anything? The cold wind bit at my face, but it wasn't just the weather. A chill ran through me because I knew I had nothing. No money, no friends who could really help, no family nearby. Just memories that stung worse than any physical pain. I tried to breathe. I tried to think. But all I could do was remember my father's voice. "Eleanor," he had said years ago, "life can surprise you. Always keep a safety net just in case." I hadn't thought much of it then. I was young, busy, and confident that my life would always be smooth. But now, I remembered the old card my father had given me, tucked away in a small envelope hidden in my drawer. "Emergency only," it had said. I never used it. Not for school, not for trips, not for anything. And now, maybe, it was my only hope. I sat on the edge of the park bench, clutching the card in my hand. My fingers trembled as I tried to make sense of what little control I had left. Could it really help me? Could it give me the chance to start over? Or was it just another cruel reminder that my life had changed forever? My phone buzzed, a message from a friend checking if I was okay. I stared at it blankly. I didn't know if I could answer. I didn't know if I even wanted help. Everything felt broken. Finally, I stood up. I had to go to the bank. I had to see what my father had left me. It wasn't just about money. It was about survival. Every step toward the bank felt heavier than the last. My stomach churned with fear and anticipation. What if the card was empty? What if it didn't work? And yet, a small spark of hope flickered inside me. My father had been careful. He had always been careful. I took a deep breath and walked through the doors of the bank. The air inside smelled of paper, polish, and something else I couldn't name, something that felt like possibilities. My heart pounded. I stepped up to the counter, my hands shaking as I handed the card to the banker. He took it, typed something into his computer, and froze. His eyes widened. He turned pale, and I saw the muscles in his jaw tighten. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. You need to see this." I leaned forward, squinting at the screen, my mind refusing to believe what I was seeing. And then, shock hit me like a tidal wave. I stared at the screen, my eyes wide, my heart hammering in my chest. I couldn't speak. I didn't even know what to think. The banker cleared his throat, still pale, and said again, "Mom, look at this carefully." I leaned closer, trying to make sense of the numbers, the accounts, the strange codes I didn't understand. My father had always been mysterious about money, always careful to teach me lessons without telling me everything. But this was something else, something I never expected. Is this real?" I whispered, my voice shaking. The banker nodded slowly. It's real. And it's unusual. I've never seen anything like this. I felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. My father had always been smart, always prepared. But had he really left me something this big? Something that could change everything? I took a shaky breath and tried to calm my racing mind. I remembered the small envelope in my drawer where the card had been hidden. My father had left notes with it, tiny instructions I hadn't fully understood. I pulled them out from my bag now and read them quickly. For life's storms. Only when you are truly in need. Trust what you cannot see at first. Everything will become clear in time. I looked back at the screen. The amount was more than I could ever imagine. Not just enough to survive, but enough to rebuild a life I had never dared to dream of. The banker hesitated, clearly unsure if he should explain more. I could see his hands trembling slightly as he scrolled through the account details. "Ma'am, there are multiple connections," he said finally. "This isn't just one account. It's linked to other accounts, investments, even properties in your name. But some of them, they're hidden in ways only someone with certain knowledge could access." Hidden. My mind spun. Hidden. Why had my father done this, and why now when I needed it most? I felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. This could solve everything, or it could open a door to complications I wasn't ready for. I didn't even know if Henry knew about this. What if he tried to take it? What if others tried? The banker looked at me with concern. I need to verify some things before I can explain fully. But I think you should know. Your father. He left this with purpose, something he didn't write down in the notes. Something he wanted only you to understand when the time came. I swallowed hard. My hands were shaking so badly that I had to grip the counter. "Purpose," I whispered. "What kind of purpose?" He shook his head. "I can't say yet. You'll need to follow the instructions on your father's documents carefully. Only you can unlock what he intended." My stomach twisted. Unlock what he intended? My father had always been careful, yes, but this was on another level entirely. A secret he had kept all these years, and somehow it was connected to me surviving the worst moment of my life. I left the bank with a mix of relief and confusion. The weight of the world seemed to lift slightly off my shoulders, but a new weight had appeared. Questions. What exactly had my father left me? How was it supposed to help? And why had he made it so complicated? As I walked through the streets, I noticed the quiet around me. The city seemed calm, almost indifferent, but my mind was spinning. For the first time since Henry had thrown me out, I felt a spark of hope. But it was tempered with fear. I knew life wasn't going to be simple from here. I opened the envelope with my father's instructions again. There were small codes, letters, and a few mysterious references to properties I had never heard of. I realized then that this card was just the beginning. What my father left me was bigger than I could ever imagine, and unlocking it would require courage, patience, and sharp thinking. I looked up at the sky as I walked home, feeling the cool evening air brush my face. I had survived the worst day of my life. And now, my father had given me a chance to survive even bigger storms ahead. But even as hope flickered inside me, a question gnawed at the back of my mind. Why now? Why so hidden? And what did Henry know about all this? I didn't have answers yet, but I knew one thing. I couldn't waste time. I had to figure out my father's plan, piece by piece, before anyone else did. The next morning I returned to the bank. Sleep had been impossible. My mind raced with every possibility. What had my father left me? Why had he hidden it so carefully? The questions spun endlessly, and every time I thought I understood, I realized I knew almost nothing. The banker was already at his desk when I arrived. He looked tense, but there was also something like awe in his eyes. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I've double-checked everything." "What I'm about to show you? It's beyond normal." I nodded, my stomach twisting. My father had always been clever, yes, but I had never imagined he could leave something like this. I handed him the card again, my hands trembling. He typed for what felt like forever. I watched numbers and letters flash across the screen, my pulse quickening. Then he froze. His face turned pale and I noticed he was actually shaking. "Ma'am, you need to see this," he whispered, pointing at the screen. This isn't just money. This is..." I leaned closer, and then my world tilted. The screen displayed multiple accounts, each linked to properties, stocks, and investments. The total sum was enough to buy a small country, or at least it felt that way. I couldn't believe my eyes, but it wasn't the amount that shocked me the most. It was what else appeared: a series of accounts in hidden names, legal trusts, and instructions that only someone with knowledge of my father's handwriting could unlock. "Your father. He did this carefully," the banker said, voice low. "Every account has layers of protection. It's like a puzzle, and only you can solve it." I pressed my hands to my face, trying to breathe. A mix of emotions hit me all at once: shock, fear, disbelief, gratitude, and a strange sense of power. My father had left me something extraordinary, something that could change my life completely. But it also demanded responsibility. "Why would he do all this?" I whispered. "Why hide it like this?" The banker shrugged. "He trusted you to use it wisely. That's all I can say. Everything else is in the documents." I felt my mind spinning. 12 years of marriage, 12 years of being ignored, humiliated, and thrown out. And now this. I realized then that my father had prepared me, in a way I hadn't understood, for the worst moments of life, and somehow he had made sure I would not just survive, but thrive. I looked down at the card in my hand. It felt heavier now, not because of the weight of the plastic, but because of what it represented. It was a key, a lifeline, a secret that could restore everything I had lost, and more. And yet, the questions nagged. If my father had done all this, why hadn't he told me sooner? Why the mystery? And most importantly, was I ready for what it meant to have this power in my hands? As I left the bank, the city around me seemed different. Every sound, every face, every passing car felt sharper, more alive. I had survived the worst betrayal of my life, and now I held a secret that could rewrite everything. But with that power came responsibility and danger. I could feel it lurking, like a shadow at the edge of my life, waiting to test me. I walked home slowly, clutching the envelope with my father's notes, trying to make sense of it all. Each instruction hinted at something bigger than money. Something almost like a hidden path, a secret designed for only me to follow. And as I reached my small apartment, I knew one thing for certain. My life had changed forever. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was stepping into a new world, a world my father had prepared me for, and one I was only beginning to understand. Back in my apartment, I sat at the small wooden table, the envelope of my father's notes spread before me. Each line, each scribbled instruction, felt like a riddle. He had always loved puzzles, and now I realized he had made my survival into one. The card had been only the first step. I started carefully. Following the instructions, I contacted one of the accounts mentioned, a property I had never heard of in a small town several hours away. The banker had warned me that some accounts required verification only I could provide. My hands trembled as I read my father's precise handwriting, double-checking every code, every detail. Hours passed. I felt my mind stretching, straining to understand. The first account unlocked a property, a small house with a safe inside. I felt my pulse quicken. This wasn't just about money. This was about preparation, about planning, about leaving a legacy that could protect me from anything life threw my way. A knock on my door startled me. I jumped, almost dropping the papers. It was my friend, Lena. She had been checking on me since Henry threw me out, sensing my loneliness and fear. She frowned as she looked at me. "Eleanor, are you okay? You look different. Something happened at the bank?" I hesitated, unsure how much to tell her. I didn't want to scare her with numbers and secret accounts, but I wanted to share the feeling of hope I hadn't felt in months. "Lena, it's hard to explain, but my father, he left me something I didn't understand before, and now I think it's going to help me rebuild my life." Her eyes widened and she nodded slowly. "I'm glad, Elena. You deserve this." I smiled faintly, grateful for her support. But inside, I knew this was bigger than just me, bigger than money or property. Something in my father's notes suggested a plan. Something hidden beneath layers that even I had to unlock step by step. I spent the next few days visiting the properties and accounts listed in the documents. Each location revealed another piece of the puzzle, a hidden room, a locked safe, documents with instructions I could barely understand. But the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just about surviving Henry's betrayal. This was about taking control of my future, about reclaiming a life that had been threatened and stolen from me. But with every discovery, a new question arose. Why had my father gone to such lengths? And why had he hidden it all so carefully? Then I noticed something strange. One of the accounts wasn't just a property or investment. It was tied to a company I had never heard of, a company with no records in my father's name. Yet, somehow, it was linked to me. The documents hinted at something powerful, something that could influence more than just my personal life. I didn't fully understand yet, but I felt a chill run down my spine. It was thrilling and terrifying. I was stepping into a world my father had prepared, a world filled with secrets, power, and responsibility. I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move could undo everything he had done for me. As I sat at my desk looking over the papers again, I realized something else. This journey wasn't just about unlocking accounts or finding hidden money. It was about understanding my father, about discovering the life lessons he had carefully encoded into these instructions. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I felt the shadow of someone else, someone who might want to take it all away if they found out. I didn't sleep that night, I couldn't. The sense of discovery, the thrill of uncovering my father's secret, and the fear of what might come next kept me awake. But one thing was certain. I was ready to face whatever challenge came next. My father had trusted me with this secret, and I wouldn't fail him. The morning sun streamed through my window, but I barely noticed it. My mind was entirely focused on the final step of my father's instructions. The past few days had been a whirlwind, hidden accounts, secret properties, and mysterious instructions that had challenged every part of me. And now, I was about to discover the last piece of his plan. I returned to the property linked to the most mysterious account, a large, elegant house hidden away in the countryside. My father's notes had hinted at something inside the house that was more than just money or assets. I stepped through the doorway, my heart pounding. The air smelled faintly of old wood and dust, but there was also a sense of presence, as if my father's spirit lingered, guiding me. Following the final instructions, I found a hidden room behind a bookshelf. Inside, there was a safe with an intricate lock. I recognized the pattern from the codes my father had left me. Hands trembling, I entered the final combination. The lock clicked, and the door opened. Inside was a collection of documents, contracts, and letters addressed to me. I read them carefully. Each letter explained why he had hidden everything and the purpose behind his elaborate plan. He hadn't just wanted to give me money, he had wanted to teach me independence, resilience, and wisdom. Every account, every property, every investment had been carefully chosen to test my patience, my intelligence, and my ability to take responsibility. And then I saw it. A letter that made my eyes fill with tears. My father had left instructions for me to take control of a family foundation, a legacy project he had started years ago to help people in need. The card, the accounts, the properties, they were all connected to this purpose. By managing these assets wisely, I could not only secure my own life, but also help others who were struggling, just like I had been. I sat on the floor overwhelmed with emotion. Shock, gratitude, and empowerment crashed over me all at once. My father had given me a second chance at life, but more than that, he had trusted me to grow into the person he knew I could be. Tears streamed down my face as I realized something crucial. I wasn't a victim anymore. Henry's betrayal had thrown me into despair, but my father's foresight had given me the tools to rise stronger than I had ever imagined. I could rebuild, I could thrive, and I could make a difference. I stood up, looking around the hidden room, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The weight of fear, betrayal, and hopelessness was gone. In its place was clarity, purpose, and a new kind of power, one that came from knowledge, preparation, and the courage to take control of my own destiny. I smiled softly, clutching the letter close to my heart. My journey wasn't just about surviving, it was about transforming my life. And now I was ready to step into the world with strength, confidence, and hope. My father's gift had been more than financial. It had been a lesson in life, a message of trust, and a reminder that even when the world turns against you, there is always a way forward. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. The storm of the past was behind me. A new chapter of my life was beginning, and this time I was in control. I held my father's letter close, tears in my eyes. Betrayal and loss had shaped me, but his gift gave me strength. I wasn't just surviving, I was rising. With courage and hope, I stepped into my new life. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.